So, the recording has started, and I shall be teaching you about RCF calls. So, over here, yesterday, last class, we discussed what kind of RCF calls can we expect. How are we supposed to tell them the story of the entire RCF thing, and thereafter keep on giving position reports. Okay. Now, in the weather deviation format, I taught you that you can also use the transmitting blind call if you ever face an RCF. No, that was there to just give you practice about the transmitting blind call so that you can perform better here. Please make a note of it. Go back to your notes of the weather deviation. Go back and write down if you have negative contact with ATC in any form, be it RCF, be it out of range. Be it RCF, be it out of range, it will be a broadcast call, all stations. It will be a broadcast call, all stations. Okay. RCF plus weather deviation.
रिपीट करना
Say again, please.
RCF plus weather deviation. पहले नोट्स में था ना आपके? क्या करते थे? ट्रांसमिट लाइन करते थे ना? No, you have to give a broadcast call, all stations. Then you have to give a call of weather deviation, 15 nautical miles. Basically, follow the slopes. Follow the slopes. And you also have to tell him a few more things, which is all external lights and TCAS on. Keep a lookout. In case of a normal RCF, you know what to do. This has been taught to you. You are supposed to give a transmitting blind call and a story that you're going to do, and will transmit again, reaching so and so. I say again. And thereafter, blind call plus position reports. Now let's say if you get in contact with another aircraft, what kind of a call will you do? You will do something known as a relay call. In this relay call, you will mention negative contact with so and so ATC. Similarly, if you're asked if what is the first thing that you do, this was taught in last class, that let's say you fail to establish contact with one particular ATC, you are supposed to contact the next ATC and confirm whether it is actually you who is not able to transmit, or is it someone else's problem, or is it actually your RCF. So whenever you're contacting the next ATC, give him a call, ask him how do you read. When he says how do you read, always make sure to mention the disclaimer, negative contact with so and so ATC. That is why I'm transmitting to you. This was a brief overview of RCF. This was a brief overview of RCF. ठीक है? कोई डाउट नहीं ना? हेलो यार, एक बात बता, ये so let's resume to Jeppesen. Today's Jeppesen briefing will be given to us by Ujjwal. Ujjwal, I hope you know Jeppesen approach charts.
Yeah,
How well do you know them?
I have almost 100 hours instrument life.
Acha, does everyone have this All India wala PDF? Jeppesen All India wala PDF. Does everyone have it?
I have it in one of the groups, so I'll check that.
Send it over in the group, please.
जो
Jeppesen All
आपने
India.
सेट के लिए भेजा था,
क्या?
जो आपने सेट के लिए भेजा था वही है ये?
नहीं 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 नहीं, ये दूसरा है. ये ऑल इंडिया है, 900 पेजेस का.
Oh yeah, I'll send it. I got it.
Confirm it is the same Jefferson All India 23 August. Thank you so much, buddy. So, what is an approach? Sriram, what is an approach?
Transition from cruise phase to descent phase.
No. Cruise phase to descent phase, to arrival phase, and to landing phase. The transition between the arrival phase and the landing phase is called the approach. So, what is an approach basically? What is an approach procedure? An approach procedure is a procedure in which you do some of the following essential things. Firstly, you come close to the airport. Any approach begins in the vicinity of the aerodrome. Okay, you come to a low altitude. So, firstly, what will this approach do? Firstly, this approach is there to manage the flow of traffic. This approach is there to manage the flow of traffic. Right? Secondly, this approach is there to allow you to get your speeds down, to get you into correct speed. Configuration, and then align yourself with the runway. RCL, runway center line, and then come on. It allows you to come on correct glide path. These are the 5 things that any person aims for in a correct approach. It starts when you're in the vicinity. It is there to manage traffic. That means holding over it. Then it is a procedure which will allow you the initial approach, final approach, whatever segment to come and then manage your speed, take the appropriate landing configuration, come along the runway center line, then come on the correct glide path and then land. Be it a visual approach, be it a non-precision approach, whatever be the case, any approach does this. So, what different types of approaches do we know of? Please make a note.
Can you please
Approach.
show the 5 pointers again?
Say again.
Show the 5 pointers again, please.
शो करना है क्या? अरे ये काम के नहीं है, जो अभी लिखा ना वो ज्यादा काम के, इसको बाद में वीडियो में देख लेना, पीडीएफ भेज दूंगा, ठीक है? इसे 5 पॉइंट लिख के रख लो, समझ गया ना अभी? चलो, अप्रोच के लिए 2 अलग अलग टाइप की अप्रोच है. सबसे पहले आपके पास है विजुअल अप्रोच, ठीक है? देन यू हैव एन इंस्ट्रूमेंट अप्रोच. नाउ इंस्ट्रूमेंट अप्रोच इज अ very broad term. Ujjwal, circling approach comes under instrument or visual?
It's visual, like it's a part of instrument approach which has visual in it.
Which has a visual segment.
Yeah, which has a visual segment in it.
So, visual approach and an instrument approach. What do you understand by visual approach? Basically, flying with the help of visual references. What do you mean by visual references? Anyone?
Prominent objects.
Look at the
Marks.
runway and make an approach. What is the most prominent object that you're gonna see and fly? The runway. It's your visual. What is the most prominent object? The runway. Okay. So what is your biggest reference? You're gonna see the runway and fly. Okay. You also have visual aids for navigation. What are visual aids for navigation? The approach lighting system, the vasis or the papis. You know what vasis and papis are? Basically, what you are going to do, you are going to look at the runway, whether it is looking like this or whether the runway is looking like this. Whenever you come on an approach path, you can see the runway in the following ways. If you see the runway kind of like this, if you see the runway kind of like this, you are way coming way too shallow. If you see the runway like this, that means you're coming way steep. But if you kind of see it like this is the correct approach path. You have to get used to how your runway should look. And judging this is called perspective. Judging this is called perspective. How does your perspective look? Are you high on approach? Are you low on approach? But let's say you every day fly to different airfields, and those different airfields have different runway widths. They have different runway lengths. They have a different runway slope. They have a different contour. This thing, because of the slope, because of the contour, because of an extremely narrow runway, it can give you false indications of perspective. That is when visual aids for navigation come in, like the Vasi lights and the Papi lights. Like the Vasi lights, which kind of look like this, and the Papi lights, which look like this. Okay. So now my question to you, Sriram, since you fly simulators, Vasis and Papis are for visual navigation or visual aids, or are they for instrument approach? It's a precision approach path indicator, Sriram. And it's a navigation aid, a visual navigation aid. It's something that you can also look at the runway and fly. Then why have Papis? Papis are for instrument approaches, correct or incorrect?
It's for both.
No. It is for visual approaches. Whenever you go and fly in simulators or whenever you're practicing, by default, the examiner, he will make you feel the runway is over here. And what is the minima? What is the minimum descent altitude or the decision height for a Cat 1 ILS approach? Janvi, Vedant, Ujjwal,
1500 feet. Sure नहीं.
Janvi,
200 feet.
200 feet.
मेरे को कैट 2 में आगे कैट 2 का होगा शायद 200.
Cat 1 is 200, Cat 2 is 100, Cat 3 alpha 50, thereafter no decision height.
ठीक है. तो 35 फीट कुछ था.
वो स्क्रीन हाइट होती है,
स्क्रीन हाइट
परफॉर्मेंस में वो. ठीक है
भाई कहीं कहीं क्लास अल्फा का लिखा है 3 अल्फा का 75 फीट का है, 50 फीट कहीं 50 फीट है कहीं 75 फीट है.
That is RVR.
No, in this minimum height also it is given 75.
कहाँ पे लिखा है? डीजीसीए की कार में तो 50 लिखा है भाई.
क्वेश्चन जब प्रैक्टिस करते थे तब बहुत इसमें अलग अलग वैल्यूज थे.
75 meters and 50 feet. This is the requirement.
75 and 75 एक और केस मैंने देखा था.
हाँ, एक और होता है 75 75 75/75/75 touchdown zone, midpoint and stop it. Relevant RVR, those all things, those will come later on when you study adverse weather, all weather operations. चलो ठीक है, बट देखता हूँ. as far as I know, according to the DGCA car, it is 50 feet buddy. Let me know if you see that 75 anywhere. We can have a discussion on it. No issues. As per my knowledge, according to the DGCA car, it is 50 feet. And as per the ICAO AOM document. So now, talking about the runway, what will these guys, simulator guys, do? They will put up the cloud ceiling. They will put up the cloud ceiling at 200 feet. Okay, one second. Huh? बंदना को अभी जो चेक करना है ना अगर अच्छे से काम करते रहेगा तो शी इज परफॉर्मिंग वेरी वेल बंदना इज एक्चुअली वर्किंग हार्ड शी इज वर्किंग हार्ड आई हैव टॉक टू क्लास फादर okay just have a word with her please. So what will they do? They'll put your cloud ceiling at 200 feet. As soon as you come below 200 feet, only then you can see the runway. And when you are at 200 feet, the runway is walking in front of you. It's right in front of you. You have to be 1 nautical mile away to be at 300 feet. You know this, right? 1 in 60 rule. You need to be 1 nautical mile away, then you're at 300 feet. 2 nautical miles away, you're at 600 feet. You know this, right? 1 and 60 rule. So if you're at 200 feet, that means you are at what distance from the threshold? 0.66 nautical miles. You're that close to the runway. You are that close to the runway. Okay? कोई डाउट? तो अब बता यहाँ पर अगर रहेगा if you're over here, will you be able to judge your perspective at the by the papis, by the vasis or the papis? No, no. It's too short of a distance. So papis and vasis are technically a visual navigation aid. Yes, you may also use them for an instrument approach, but an instrument approach has to be flown with your heads down, looking inside the cockpit. Okay? Works? Not works. Okay. So now that was about instrument approach. Correction, visual approach. Now let's talk about instrument approaches. What do you mean by instrument approaches? जानवी बताएगी. Dex पढ़ा मैं जानवी ने. आए
यही होता है ना इंस्ट्रूमेंट.
जोर से बोलो. आवाज नहीं आ रही.
and non-precision approach.
इंस्ट्रूमेंट अप्रोच क्या होती है? वो तो उसके आपने भाग बता दिए, 2 टाइप्स बता दिए.
तो इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स के थ्रू
Which type of instruments?
यही लोकलाइजर मार्कर बीकन.
What are those?
ILS.
अरे बाबा, what are those? Those are nav aids, ना?
ऐसा, हाँ जी.
No, what kind of instrument? Using navigation aids, radio navigation aids, if you're flying an approach, it is called a instrument approach, non-precision approach. Now, what is the difference between a precision approach and a non-precision approach? What is the difference between a precision approach and a non-precision approach? Vedant, might be telling me?
Not really sure about it.
जोर से बोलो. हेलो.
हाँ जी,
बताओ जी, क्या होता है प्रिसिशन एंड नॉन प्रिसिशन?
भूल गया, श्योर नहीं है।
श्रीराम, Rex,
Precision approach are three-dimensional approach where we get both vertical and horizontal guidance, and non-precision we only get one of the two, which is mostly horizontal.
is there any kind of approach where you only get vertical guidance?
Yes, approach with vertical guidance.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
What was the question?
Is there any approach where you will not get lateral guidance and only get vertical guidance?
I'm not
No.
sure of.
No. Okay. It's always, if you first and foremost, the very first type of navigation that you will ever get, the very first type of guidance you will get is lateral.
Lateral.
Only if you have lateral, you can have vertical. You cannot just have vertical. This also follows down later on in your career when you try to program the FMS and you use the autopilot. If the flight management system is managing the lateral path, only then it can manage the vertical path. If it is not managing the lateral path, it can never manage the vertical path. Yes, if it is managing the lateral path, it may or may not, based on the pilot's choice, manage the vertical path. But only if it is managing the lateral path, the vertical path can be managed. Lateral comes first. Okay? Just remove the word 3D. Precision approach is any form of approach which gives you both horizontal. Now, another word which the DGC examiner might want to hear is azimuthal. Azimuthal guidance plus vertical guidance. Now, many people, Vedant does these things. Does it ring a bell?
पढ़ा था
क्या?
पढ़ा था ये एजिमुथल याद आया, सॉल्व किया था क्वेश्चन इस पे।
हाँ, अब आपको इसका मतलब नहीं समझ आएगा कि क्या है, what does it actually mean by this? When you say that okay, I'm getting horizontal guidance or azimuthal guidance, that means I have a deviation bar. I have a deviation bar and my instruments. It can be on my CDI, it can be on my flight directors, on the PFD, it can be anything which is basically telling me, okay, fly left or fly right. It is basically giving me guidance. Vedant, you are aware of the course deviation indicator, the CDI. What does it do? It gives us a deviation. That deviation is nothing but a guidance for us. That deviation is nothing but a
गाइडेंस।
okay. Similarly, if I have a glide slope bar, it moves up and down to give me vertical guidance. It tells me, okay, buddy, you're going way too down, fly up. Okay, buddy, you're going way too up, fly down. Okay, buddy, you're right in the middle. Works. Any doubts? Any doubts? If you're getting both of them, it's a precision approach. If you're not getting both of them, if you're only getting one of them, it's a non-precision approach. Works? Any doubts? No? Great. So what are the different precision approaches that are there? What are the different precision approaches that are there? Firstly, ILS, instrument landing system, microwave landing system, both of them are precision approaches. LNAV plus VNAV approaches. Then you have something known as a precision approach radar approach. Okay. Does anyone remember anything else?
What is PERPC again?
Precision approach radar.
RNAV.
It is used in the military. Yes. So LNAV, VNAV is basically RNAV only. LNAV, VNAV is basically the Boeing terminology of flying an RNAV. Okay. LNAV is lateral navigation. VNAV is vertical navigation. Works? Now, non-precision approaches are many. Okay. Firstly, Ujjwal's favorite, NDB. You can use an NDB to come inbound on a certain bearing, and that certain bearing will be leading you to the runway center line. That bearing will be the closest, not exactly, but the closest to the runway center line. Okay. Then you have VDF approaches. Basically, controller intercepted procedures or controller intercepted approaches. Basically, here the controller is telling you fly this QDM, fly this QDM, fly this QDM, fly this QDM, fly this QDM. He's continuously correcting you, but this is no longer done. You also have VOR approaches. Now, let's say your ILS consists of a localizer and a glide slope. The glide slope खराब हो गया. It went off the air, out of service. What is left? Only the localizer is left. So when it comes to the ILS, but only localizer. So you call those localizer only approaches. These are also a part of non-precision approaches. Then you have GPS approaches, which is basically LNAV approaches. Anyone else?
So basically, LNAV approaches and are this non-precision, and LNAV plus VNAV is precision approach, right?
Yes, simple enough. LNAV में आपको सिर्फ लेटर मिल रहा है, LNAV VNAV में दोनों मिल रहे थे. That's simple.
Or if it's only VNAV approach, then
मैंने अभी बताया only VNAV होगा ही नहीं. LNAV चाहिए V तभी VNAV आएगा. बिना L के V नहीं आएगा.
so but एक ऐसा भी केस हो सकता है ना कि हमारा लोकलाइजर ग्लाइड स्लोप है और लोकलाइजर खराब हो गया, सिर्फ ग्लाइड स्लोप काम कर रहा है.
यार आज तक मैंने जिंदगी में ऐसा देखा नहीं. If the localizer is off the air, by the glide slope, which is more important? You coming on the center line or you coming on the correct perspective? भाई देख रनवे तो इधर है, ग्लाइड स्लोप तो यहाँ से भी आ सकता है ना.
And Vedant, say for example, you're landing on the runway. On your Jefferson chart, you have the reference altitude as well. Like at say for example, 5 nautical miles from the threshold. You have a reference. Like you have to be 500 feet above the ground. Then 400 feet, you have to be 350 feet above the ground level. So you have a reference as well. But for lateral deviation, you don't have any reference as well. So, and usually even ILS, your ILS frequency is coupled with the glide slope frequency.
Exactly. But exactly, bro. So what he is trying to say, मेरे दिमाग में भी point, I didn't know how to explain it to you. So in the aircraft as well, you do not tune directly into the glide slope frequency. The glide slope frequencies are paired with the localizer frequency. Ujjwal, I've taught you this. Where can you find what frequencies were paired to which frequency?
Say again.
Which glide slope frequency is paired with which localizer frequency? Where can I find this information?
AIP. No idea.
It's a ICAO world standard.
No, not sure about that.
I've taught you this in class. Third day of classes, ICAO and Extend Volume 1 Radio
Okay, yeah.
Navigation Aids. Go open it, study it. You'll come across the glide slope, and the precision of the glide slope, how precise of transmissions of the glide slope that are there, they determine what category of approach is there. If the glide slope is way more precise, yes, it can be categorized as a Cat 3 ILS. Because the localizer precision always remains the same, most near about remains the same. It is the glide slope which changes. Okay. So now, is this the only difference between the precision and the non-precision approaches? Negative. This is not the only difference. There are many different things that go between the precision and the non-precision approach. Yes, Vedant.
भैया चलो मान लिया आपका लोकलाइजर ग्लाइड स्लोप दोनों ऑफ है चले गए, तो कैन वी लैंड यूजिंग मार्कर बीकन्स?
नहीं भाई, प्राइमरी देख, ILS होता है ना, ILS का प्राइमरी नैवेट इज लोकलाइजर. अगर तेरे पास लोकलाइजर नहीं है तो लोकलाइजर तेरा ऑफ द एयर है, तो तू लोकलाइजर के अंदर ट्यून करेगा नहीं. अब जब तक तू लोकलाइजर के अंदर ट्यून करेगा नहीं, तेरा ग्लाइड स्लोप ट्यून होगा नहीं. करेक्ट. The glide slope is dependent upon the localizer. You cannot explicitly tune the glide slope. This is what I was trying to say. I think I did not make it clear. But you need the localizer. If the localizer is off the air, you won't tune into its frequency. Even if you do, you never ever fly glide slope only approaches. Okay, never. Yes, Janvi.
जो नॉन प्रिसिशन अप्रोच है उसके अंदर फिर हम लोग सेंटर लाइन से कितना डिविएट हुए हैं वही बताता है हमें.
Yes, left or right.
ठीक है.
Only lateral, azimuthal, or horizontal. 3 words.
Got it.
You can use any of these 3 words.
जो कल हमने किया था कॉल he will descend to flight level 50 in
50.
hold for ILS approach, sorry ILS landing. ठीक है, तो इसके अंदर हम कोई भी फिर
ILS approach.
ILS approach
Landing सब सेम होती है, अप्रोच अलग अलग.
तो कुछ भी यूज कर सकते हैं ना, नॉन प्रिसिशन आल्सो.
RCF हुआ,
हाँ जी.
क्या यूज करना चाहोगे? You want to use the most precise navigation aid available to you.
बट आपने कहा था इसके अंदर कुछ भी फिल कर सकते हैं.
हाँ, कुछ भी कर सकते हो. अब अगर ILS नहीं है तो व्यूअर अप्रोच ही बना के आओगे ना.
जी.
But if let's say you are a pilot, you are given a choice to make a viewer approach, a visual approach, or an instrument ILS approach. Which approach will you choose, Janvi?
इंस्ट्रूमेंट ILS.
No, viewer is also an instrument approach.
जी. नहीं,
Viewer approach भी तो
प्रिसिशन
बेटर है ना यार वो. ये
Yes.
क्यों बेटर होती है? Why is it better? Because these precision approaches, as the name suggests, it's a more precise approach. It can allow you to come down to an even lower level. The next point that I was about to teach you was minimums. Minimums is basically every instrument approach procedure. Why is it made? It is made for those days where you cannot see the runway. Otherwise, visual approach, you go boom land. Right? It is made for those days. Radio navigation, passing through clouds, you want to navigate. Boom. So it allows you to come down to a very, very low altitude without being in visual contact with ground. If it is a precision approach, you can come way closer to the ground. The minimum altitude that you can go to becomes very, very low. Non-precision approach, this very same minimum is higher. You cannot go below this. Okay, why? Because we don't trust it that much. It's not that precise. Works. So the reason is you would always want to use a more precise navigation aid, right? Regardless of that, ATC will sleep the entire space clear because now you are a unguided missile. If you do any approach, yeah. Continue, Joy.
So Vedant, say for example, this is the runway. So if you have only glide slope, if you don't have lateral deviation, say for example, you have your airport buildings here, it will give you the height from where you have to descend. But imagine you're not on the center line, you'll be descending towards the building because you don't have a lateral separation. Like if that will guide towards the runway. Say for example, you're descending and not going towards the runway. So that's the reason lateral is very important. After you're laterally aligned to the runway, then it makes sense to descend. But imagine you're descending without the lateral separation, the lateral deviation. So I feel that's the reason why you have lateral deviation coupled with this one vertically. So you don't have vertical deviation alone.
I understood it, but एक और doubt आ गया कि अगर there are buildings or there are some objects So won't GPWS be our primary source to get away with those
No,
objects?
say for example, you're flying a
You
Cessna
you
172.
don't want GPWS to kick in during your landing, bro. You
Yeah.
get screwed up. You get screwed up pretty bad.
And it's not like all aircrafts have GPWS. Like say for
Yeah.
example, you're flying a Cessna 172 that doesn't have a GPWS, or Diamond DA40 that doesn't have a GPWS. It's an expensive equipment. So these are using radio frequencies, so these are not that expensive like GPWS or your TCAS, or you don't want any of them. So that's the reason it's always better to have a lateral deviation. And after you're laterally towards the runway, imagine you don't meet the minimum, so you can always go around. But if you're descending towards something, say for example now hitting mountains, I guess he'll continue from there for when you're explaining something, right?
देख रनवे है, उसको टॉप व्यू दिखाता हूँ. ये तेरे पास ये रनवे, यहाँ पे एक माउंटेन है, यहाँ पे एक माउंटेन है. Localizer is throwing a beam like this. Glide slope is also throwing a beam like this. But if you just follow the glide slope, you can come laterally like this also. You can come laterally like this also. Boom, took gaya. Boom, took gaya. You first want to align yourself and then. Okay, the very first process, any kind of approach you make, even if you make a visual approach, you first align yourself with the center line and then you descend. That is the standard procedure to do it. That is how flying is done. Okay, Sriram, you heard it out.
Yeah, now I'm having this question for three-dimensional approaches. There's this missed approach.
What are 3D approaches?
Approach with vertical guidance. I mean, both lateral and vertical guidance is given, right?
Exactly. You call it 3D approach in Sims. We call it precision approach in regulations. That's it.
Yeah, the missed approach point is the term given in three-dimensional. Similarly, something is given for non-precision, right?
Yeah,
What's that?
that is exactly the next point that I'm going to teach you guys. Okay. So these are the different types of approaches. Vedant, समझ आया? कोई doubt है किसी को भी? Anyone any doubt before I proceed any further? हाँ बोलना.
And in regs, they have categorized something as APV.
Initial approach fix, huh?
APV, Alpha Papa Victor, approach with vertical guidance. They have given it an
How much of RK you have reading all airline topics? APV, approach with vertical guidance.
No, bro.
So okay, I'll tell you. APV is okay. YouTube, go to YouTube, go to APV. Okay, it all comes under. Okay. Approach with vertical guidance is a form of lateral plus vertical guidance approach. Both guidance are there. Okay. By default, if anything is categorized as an instrument approach, it has lateral guidance. If anything does not have lateral guidance, it is not an instrument approach. Period. The first primary aspect to have. Let's start. Okay. So now coming to the minimums. Minimums is basically the lowest altitude that you can go to, or the lowest height that you can go to. Okay. In the case of precision approaches, you will call this minimum correction. Decision height or decision altitude, you call it DA, and in brackets you shall write H. It's also called DA or DH, DA/DH, decision altitude or decision height. If this vertical reference is established with the help of mean sea level or QNH, it's called decision altitude. If it is established with the help of ground, it's called decision height. It is that simple, guys. Similarly, over here, it is not called decision altitude. It is called minimum descent altitude or minimum descent height. MDA, MDH. MDH masala such. Okay. Now, what is the difference between them? Decision altitude is a decision point. It is a decision point. Descent, MDA is minimum descent altitude. Please write down the full forms. Today I will be explaining you the meaning of both of them and how are they both different from each other. Ujjwal, do you know anything about them and why are they, different, and what is a CANPA approach? What is a CDFA approach? Do you know this? Okay, how is an MDA different from a DH or a DA?
कोई 7 फीट का कुछ डिफरेंस होता है मेरे ख्याल से, अगर मैं
आप DDA के बारे में बात करो, डिराइव डिसीजन ऑल्टीट्यूड।
हम लोग को DADH
So-
में वही लिखाया था, 7 फीट का डिफरेंस होता है फ्रॉम द शायद से 7 फीट 7 आई गेस सम फीट का डिफरेंस होता है फ्रॉम द एरोड्रोम रेफरेंस पॉइंट.
From MDA, we can continue till missed approach point or something till we have visual reference.
Bro, this guy is a chumma and like so chumma. I love your regs knowledge, bro. Genuinely.
Full of
I struggle in regs, bro. Please teach me.
you know.
But I like your regs knowledge. Not many people have this regs knowledge. So I'll tell you. So let's say I have a runway and I'm performing a precision approach. I'm coming in like this. Okay. There is only a certain altitude that I can go down to for the case of a precision approach. And in this case, it will be called as a decision altitude. As soon as I reach this particular altitude, if I am in visual contact with the ground, I will continue my approach and I will commence a landing. I will perform a landing. If at this point, if at this altitude, I do not have my ground in contact, I will initiate a go round. And this is the point that I will take my decision. This is the point. At 200 feet, I will take my decision. Can I go below this? Can I go below this? Of course, I can go below this. Now you're gonna ask me, चूतिया हो गया क्या? नहीं. इस पॉइंट पे अगर आप डिसीजन लोगे तो जहाज का इनर्शिया रहेगा. The aircraft will have some inertia. It will go down. It will go down. So maybe you're coming down till, in real life, you're actually coming down till 180 feet. In real life, you're actually coming down till 180 feet. And then going around. What is 200 feet? Cat 1 minimum. Okay, it is a decision point. It is the altitude at which you make a decision. It is not the lowest altitude that you can descend to. But now, let's understand what is MDA. Write down the definition of MDA, or I'll make you write down the definition of MDA. Okay. Sarvesh 930.
ओके
रुक जा. की है तेरे पास POF की?
नहीं
You don't have POF की Keith? रुक जा.
नहीं
It's going, huh? First 100 questions.
ठीक है
ठीक है. Let's start. So now MDA. आपका MDA आ गया. So what is MDA? MDA, basically the word says minimum descent altitude. It is the lowest altitude that you can descend to in the case of a non-precision approach. You, at any circumstance, this is a platform, you cannot go below it. You cannot go below it. Can I fly at it? Can I maintain that level? Yes, I can maintain that level. So I will maintain that level. I have a option to maintain that level until a certain point. And that certain point is the missed approach point. Even if coming at the missed approach point, I cannot see the runway, I should commence a go around mandatorily. I can also commence anywhere here. Okay. But this is the lowest altitude that I could have descended to. Okay. Not below this. Now, Vedant, what you were taught was a derived decision altitude. So for any non-precision approach, I cannot go below this because my obstacle clearance will be compromised. So what does it mean? I will continue down to this altitude, and if I don't get visual sight, I shall maintain level. At this point, should I take the decision? No. My aircraft has inertia. My aircraft has inertia. So I shall keep a buffer margin of, let's say, 50 feet. And okay, if this is 600 feet, my DDA, derived decision altitude, is 650 feet. I will start adding power at 650 feet so that I can fly level at 600 feet if needed. Or even if I end up doing a go around, my aircraft will descend by 50 feet and then I can do a go around. At no instance I should go below that. This is the actual concept. This is the actual concept. This is a very important thing that is also looked forward in airline interviews. And this is the exact answer that they want. Now, talking about another type of approaches, the non-precision approaches. So, in India, you cannot do this. Huh? In India, were you allowed to do this, Ujjwal? Were you allowed to fly level till the missed approach point and then descend?
No. You don't see the runway at decision altitude, go around and choose
No, MDA for VOR approach.
No, not even
So
flying level.
confirm all your charts were CDFA charts.
I guess I am not sure of the terminology.
In the lower minimum section, it would have been written CDFA.
Yeah, you're talking about the continuous descent, right? At this altitude, you have to be this. Yeah.
No, was the word CDFS explicitly written in the minimum section of a Jepson?
No.
Check
as far as I'll just check it later.
So now, Sriram, so now India has told that all the non-precision approaches, they cannot be a step down approach kind of like this. They have to be at a constant angle, as a continuous descent. And at this point, if you don't see the runway, you have to go around. This kind of a procedure for non-precision approaches. Non-precision may you are allowed to fly level till the missed approach point. But India has mandatorily regulated it that all non-precision approaches are to be flown as CDFA type. That means if you don't see it at MDF, go around and treat it like the same procedure as a precision approach. Works? So that is the difference between DA and MDA.
So for NPA, missed approach point and MDA both are same, right? Non-precision approach, missed approach point.
No, I will just give you the definition. I'll give you the definition from Jefferson itself. Yes, Vedant?
But in MDI, I remember that we take reference point as threshold elevation or the airport elevation, if that the difference is more than 7 feet or something like that was.
Bro, that is, मैं क्या बताऊं? ये वाला तो मेरे को समझ में नहीं आ रहा 7 feet वाला क्या?
सर ने पढ़ाया था कि हम लोग एक एयरपोर्ट एलिवेशन होता है, एरोड्रोम एलिवेशन और एक थ्रेशोल्ड एलिवेशन. हाँ. तो अगर उन दोनों का डिफरेंस 7 फीट से ज्यादा है तो वी टेक थ्रेशोल्ड एलिवेशन एज द रेफरेंस पॉइंट फॉर एमडीए.
हाँ, तो उसमें इससे कहीं ना कुछ लेना देना है. ऑफ कोर्स थ्रेशोल्ड ही लोग एयरपोर्ट एलिवेशन ले ही नहीं सकते, तो इसका इससे कोई लेना देना नहीं है ना. वो ये बोल रहे हैं, विनोद सर ने जो आपको सिखाया था वो ये सिखाया था कि ये जो हाइट कैलकुलेटेड है, वो थ्रेशोल्ड से कैलकुलेट की जाती है, या अगर मान लो एयरपोर्ट का रनवे यहाँ पे, एप्रन यहाँ पे, और रनवे थोड़ा है ना 20 फीट नीचे है, तो ये जो एमडीए या डीएडीएच जो भी कैलकुलेट होगा उसका रेफरेंस कहाँ से लोगे, हाइट का रेफरेंस कहाँ से लोगे. अब इसके और इसके हाइट के रेफरेंस के बीच में भी तो 20 फीट का फर्क आ गया ना. कायरो का एयरपोर्ट जो है, जैसे हम लोगों ने इजिप्ट में देखा, कायरो का जो एयरपोर्ट है वो ऐसे एक ऊंचाई पे बना हुआ है. एप्रन इज एट एन ऊंचाई, रनवे इज अ लिटिल लो. 2 एप्रन है, एक इधर एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे, एक थोड़ा नीचे. So this vertical reference is taken from the threshold and not from the airport elevation, which actually makes sense. The aircraft has to touch down here, so the reference will be taken from here. What he had to say, this reference will be only be taken. This problem will only arise if the difference between the touchdown elevation and the airport elevation is more than 7 feet. If it is less than 7 feet, okay, it is disregarded, whatever is higher is taken. That is only for the purpose of DGC exam.
Upon I sent you the charts. Just check if that is mentioned.
Yeah, 1 second. Write down the definition of MDA. Write down a specified altitude or height. A specified altitude or a height in a in non-precision approach below which descent must not be made, below which descent must not be made without the required visual reference. So, got it? No doubts? And write on the next one. A specified altitude or height in decision altitude or height. A specified altitude or height in a precision approach at which a missed approach must be initiated, at which a missed approach must be initiated if the required visual reference to continue the approach has not been established. Required visual reference to continue the approach has not been established. So again, the entire definition is same. The only difference is at one point you have to initiate a missed approach. You have to take a decision. The other is you can come down till this much only. You can roam around here. I'm not asking you to do a missed approach. You can roam around, but for the purpose of a DA, you have to go around. Okay, I'm sending you one by the 7 feet one. I'm sending it to you. It's here. उसमें 7 फीट है। पढ़ो नोट 1 पढ़ो, जो मैंने भेजा है उसका नोट 1 पढ़ो।
फर्स्ट फोटो सेकंड फोटो?
सेकंड वाले का नोट 1। इतना डेप्थ में क्यों पढ़ाते? ये तो क्वेश्चन भी नहीं आता।
सेम डेफिनेशन लिखवाई है नोट्स में सर ने।
इतना डेप्थ में आया ये डेफिनेशन आया? आता ही नहीं है ये। Stored you. You don't need it. जानवी बताओ।
जो हमारा एमडीए था उसके अंदर इंडिया में ही है कि हम लोग क्रूज नहीं कर सकते टिल मिस्ड अप्रोच,
इंडिया में ही?
वरना कि हम क्रूज करके जा सकते हैं और उसके बाद
अरे
डिसीजन।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
ठीक है, गॉट इट।
उसके बाद डिसीजन नहीं होता, उसके बाद मिस्ड अप्रोच पॉइंट आता है ऐसे
तो
टक टक टक।
वही
ये
तो,
ऐसे आता है, फिर भी एक ऐसा मिस्ड अप्रोच पॉइंट एम करके लिखा होता
अगर इसके बाद भी कुछ ना दिखे तब हमारा होगा ना।
है। यस,
ठीक है,
इंडिया में, लेकिन यहाँ पर आ गई कल्टी हो जाने का।
गॉट इट।
युवराज रिजल्ट,
सॉरी?
रिजल्ट आया?
नहीं मेरा एचएससी बोर्ड है।
अच्छा,
अभी आ जाएगा 2-3 दिनों में आते हैं।
सीबीएसई का आ गया, आपको वो कभी आ जाएगा। ठीक है, एनीवन एनी डाउट्स? कैन आई प्रोसीड?
भाई एमडीए में सर ने एक और चीज लिखवाई थी, आपने लिखा है नॉन प्रिसीजन, और हमने लिखा था और सर्कलिंग अप्रोच। तो सर्कलिंग अप्रोच में भी सेम ही
मेरी जान आपकी बात सही है, वो देखो मैंने आपको डेफिनेशन भेज रखी है, उसमें सर्कलिंग है, बट इंडिया में सर्कलिंग अप्रोच होती नहीं। रटना आसान है, चीजों को कनेक्ट करना मुश्किल।
नहीं, वो सर्कलिंग अप्रोच का मैं मालूम इंडिया में बैन है, लेकिन मैं उज्जवल से पूछ रहा हूँ कि सर्कलिंग अप्रोच और नॉन प्रिसीजन अप्रोच दोनों में सेम चीज वैलिड होगी एमडीए में, जो हम लोग ने अभी आपने एक्सप्लेन की।
वापस बोलना।
अभी आपने लिखा कि द स्पेसिफिक ऑल्टीट्यूड और हाइट इन अ नॉन प्रिसीजन, और डेफिनेशन में मैंने लिखा है और सर्कलिंग अप्रोच।
हाँ
तो दोनों में वी हैव टू मेक अ स्पेसिफिक कॉल कि इतने एल्टीट्यूड तक जाना है, उसके बाद वी हैव टू इनिशिएट अ मिस अप्रोच, राइट?
हाँ। भाई देख, प्रिसिशन अप्रोच है, 200 फीट तक लेके आएगा वो तेरे को। 200 फीट पे सर्कलिंग नहीं होती। सर्कलिंग 800 फीट पे हो सकती है, 1000 फीट पे हो सकती है, 200 फीट पे सर्कलिंग नहीं होती। ठीक है जी, करेक्ट मी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग बडी उज्जवल।
Yeah, almost 500 feet.
I was in Egypt, I practiced it at 800.
We were flying an Airbus 320.
That is also so. Now the point from where actually you start your descent, basically this point, for the purpose of a precision approach, this will be called the final approach point. For the purpose of a non-precision approach, it will be called the final approach fix. That is the only difference. P for precision, P for point. Khata. Any doubts?
तो फिर से एक्सप्लेन कर देना।
कुछ नहीं है, ये जो पॉइंट है जहां से आप अपना डिसेंट शुरू करोगे, ठीक है, इसमें हम लोग फाइनल अप्रोच पॉइंट बोलते हैं। अगर ये आईएलएस और ग्लाइड स्लोप है तो हम लोग इसे फाइनल अप्रोच पॉइंट बोलते हैं। अगर ये वीओआर है तो हम लोग इसे फाइनल अप्रोच फिक्स बोलते हैं। इसके बारे में और जब तब पता चलेगा जब
ऑक्सफोर्ड
हम
पढ़ा
लोग, अच्छा ऑक्सफोर्ड में पढ़ाते हैं, ठीक है। सो नाउ let us take a 5-minute break and thereafter we will do Jefferson. Everyone has time. No, everyone has time. You guys can do. I want to teach you Jefferson. I want to complete the Jefferson today.
How long will it take? I have to go somewhere.
10, 15 max. Works or does not work?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
I'll leave irrespective. I'll leave around 9:45.
Okay, no issues. We will have the lecture recorded, not worry. Okay. So then in that case, we'll quickly have a 2-minute break. We'll see each other in 2 minutes. Works? What is Jefferson? कोई बता सकता है? वेदांत, श्रीराम, जानवी?
चार्ट्स होते हैं।
चार्ट्स होते हैं, जेफरसन के चार्ट्स होते हैं, वो तो एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया के भी होते हैं। जेफरसन क्या है? बोइंग की ऐसी कंपनी जिसने बदनामी नहीं सही है। It is that company of Boeing which is very जिसकी बदनामी नहीं हुई है, ठीक है, in simple words. But apart from that, it is basically a designing company. He's that guy who used to make decorative notes in the class. Your Airport Authority of India publishes these charts, these approach charts. These are made by the Airport Authority of India. Jefferson takes them, redesigns them, and publishes them. And it redesigns them in such a way that it is pilot friendly. If it is pilot friendly, your cockpit will be less prone to errors. And the standard that Jefferson has created, probably no one else has been able to achieve it. And they have copyrighted it. So they are going to get money for it. Works. So, talking about Jefferson. Jefferson publishes all sorts of charts, route charts, arrival charts, departure charts, approach charts as well. Okay. Today we will be studying about Jefferson approach charts. Choose an aerodrome of your choice.
लखनऊ।
Lucknow. Okay. VIL. Okay, so Delhi FIR. So all of these, PDFs, they are linked. If I click on Delhi, it will take me to the Delhi FIR ka list. So here, let's say I have Lucknow International Airport. You have SIDS of Lucknow, and here we have the Lucknow charts. So Lucknow has ILS on runway 27. It does not have ILS on 09. It has ILS only on one side. Okay, so let's start. You guys can see the screen. Do you want me to change it like this? Will it be more appropriate like this? Less appropriate? More appropriate? Okay, great. Now, this Jefferson approach chart is basically telling you the entire procedure. Today we will be discussing the ILS procedure, let's say. Okay, I'm going to give you a chart briefing. And before I give you a chart briefing, I'm going to tell you how do you read one. How do you read a chart? Okay, this chart has 4 sections. This entire chart has 4 sections. Please have a look. The first section is here. There are way more bifurcations in this. Okay, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm only giving you 4. Okay, the topmost is called communications, then you have MSA, then you have the Mr. Way more bifurcations, but for the time being, you're just gonna keep it to 4 sections. When you study for airlines, study more bifurcations, no issues. Right now, काम चलाओ 4 bifurcation. ये वाला जो सेक्शन है, क्या नाम है इसका? यहाँ पर देखो, इसका नाम लिखा हुआ है ब्रीफिंग स्ट्रिप. इसका नाम लिखा हुआ है ब्रीफिंग स्ट्रिप. Works. Then you have the second section over here. This second section over here, he is telling you about the plan view. Plan view बोले तो bird's eye view, top down view कि literally what is happening to my flight path, where am I going. Okay, thereafter we have the side view. I'm checking out the profile, nice. It's a side view from kind of this. So he's basically, whenever I want to see, okay, from where am I commencing my descent, anything that has to do with vertical path deviations, wherever I'm changing my altitude, And in this procedure, do I have to descend somewhere? Do I have to climb somewhere? Whatever be the case. Okay, then we have minimums. The minimums. See, this is what I was telling you. Localizer out, CDFA. So CDFA bole to it is a localizer, but glide slope out. It becomes a non-precision approach, flown as a CDFA type approach. Works? This is what I was telling you. So these are the 4 sections. Okay. Now I'm going to give you a briefing. Let's say you are my captain. I am your first officer. I'm giving you a briefing. Works? Listen to this briefing very carefully. You will require this in your flying days as well. So this is Lucknow. This is Jeppesen for Lucknow, India, ILS runway 27. This is Lucknow, Jeppesen for Lucknow, India, ILS runway 27. This is the Jeppesen company's branding. This chart was published on the 25th of November 2016, effective 8 December 2016. Index number is 11-1. The ITA code is Victor India Lima Kilo. The ICAO code is Victor India Lima Kilo. The ITA code is Lima Kilo Oscar for Chaudhry Charan Singh International Airport. Okay. So Lucknow, India, they have already written this. So why write this much? Because when you go outside, let's say Chicago, Miami, United States, Miami itself can have 4 different aerodromes with 4 different ICAO designators with 4 different names, right? So this is the city and the country name. This is the airport name. But one city can have 2 airports, right? Delhi, Hindon, Safdarjung, right? This is outside the box. So it is to be read from the right to the left. Now we are going to be inside the box, inside the briefing strip. Please note at the communication section, the first very line is the communication section. ATIS, then tower. Other charts you will see, you will first have the ATIS frequency, then the approach frequency, then the tower frequency, then the ground frequency. In this particular order. Why? Because whenever you are about to commence your approach, you will first take wahan ka weather, and for weather you need ATIS. Thereafter, you will be in contact with control. You will contact approach. Then you'll contact tower. Then after landing, you'll contact ground. So it is given in a very, very logical sequence. Works? So now this is an ILS chart. This is an ILS chart. So what will be the primary navigation aid, Vedant, that we discussed?
Localizer.
Localizer. So the first section, the first line, the first column, the first box is going to be telling me my primary navigation aid with its ident India Lima Uniform Charlie, iLook, and the frequency. If I tune into this frequency, I shall get my localizer and glide slope deviation signals. So now the localizer will be pointing to a runway, and it will be pointing to the runway at a direction. That will be my final approach course, and that final approach course is mentioned over here. This is the glide slope crossing altitude. It's basically kind of like your final approach point or your height cross check. It's basically a glide slope height cross check. You can consider it as that way. Okay, I will not call it the final approach point as of yet. ठीक है, व्यूअर अप्रोच में फाइनल अप्रोच फिक्स बताता है. क्या बताते हैं? फाइनल अप्रोच फिक्स बताता है. इसके बाद हमारे पास आते हैं मिनिमम्स. ये सीधा बोल दिया, डिप्लोमेटिक आंसर दिया, जा जाके मिनिमम नीचे जाके चेक कर, यहाँ पे जाके चेक कर. ठीक है. अब यहाँ पे आपके पास एयरपोर्ट एलिवेशन, रनवे एलिवेशन, 7 फीट का फर्क है, नहीं 6 फीट का फर्क है. बच गया पैदा. ठीक है. सो एयरपोर्ट एलिवेशन मतलब ARP, the elevation of the ARP, aerodrome reference point. Runway elevation means the elevation of the touchdown point. Works? Then let's say you're coming over here and you want to perform a missed approach. You want to go around. You want to perform a missed approach. So the procedure for the missed approach is mentioned over here. The missed approach procedure states climb straight ahead 2500. Then you take a turn climbing right to the viewer to join the hold at 3500 feet or as directed. They will always give this line or as directed as a diplomatic line, or you can also listen to the ATC if he says any other thing. Let's say Lucknow has a radar. Lucknow can also give you radar vectors. Maybe, you know, he will not tell you, you go ahead, you go straight, then you join holding, then you again come outbound, then you again come inbound. Instead, if he has radar vectors, he'll simply tell you turn right on this heading, then again turn right on this heading, continue for finals. So simple, right? This is what radar vectors is. Then you have other information, altimeter set, hectopascal, runway elevation, 15 hectopascal. So what is this runway elevation? Ujjwal, tell me. What is runway elevation? Vedant, Janvi, Sriram, you all have passed meteorology. I want you to tell me. Sorry?
Above the ground level?
Yeah, but why is it in hectopascals? Runway elevation, it should be in feet. Why is it in hectopascals? So now, Vedant, Janvi, Sriram, I want you guys to calculate this thing. I have an aerodrome at Lucknow. Lucknow aerodrome airport, runway is at 399 feet. Okay, so I measure my pressure over here. I need to get this down to QNH. Right, this is how I calculate my QNH, right? So how many hectopascals should I add? Please do the calculation with 28 feet per minute. 28 feet per hectopascal. Ujjwal, please do the calculation. You know this now? Pressure lapse rate, Ujjwal? Do the calculation, please.
14.3 मैंने 30 से लिया है 1 हेक्टर
28 बोला मैंने बाबा 27 होता है ना
28 से
30 कहाँ पे होता है where is 30 feet per hectopascal change it is at 5000 feet right you should ideally take 27 14.7 which is 15 so basically if you're on the ground you turn your altimeter and you turn your altimeter to a place where it is reading 0 feet so basically whatever pressure मैंने क्या किया altimeter को ऐसे घुमाया कि मेरे को वो 0 feet दे मैं back calculation कर रहा हूँ I'm doing back calculation so what will my subscale indicate my QFE so by doing this I can calculate okay yeah if I turn my altimeter and my altimeter is showing 0 feet whatever is my subscale pressure, that is my QFE only. Now I am a smart pilot. I need to calculate what is my QNH. You did all of this calculation? Yes, all of this calculation is already given to you over here. Just add 15 feet. Let's say whenever you are doing it, 998 hectopascal came. 998 hectopascal came on your subscale when you are doing that. What should you do? You should add 15 feet. You will automatically get your QNH. Works. Transition level is always given by the ATC and transition altitude is fixed, 4000 feet. Why is the transition level given by the ATC? Because transition level is the depth of the transition level changes with QNH. We all know this. Works. On the right hand side, we have minimum safe altitude or minimum sector altitude. Write down the definition of minimum sector altitude or minimum safe altitude.
Paul, I'll take a leave. I'll see you tomorrow. What do you take?
Say again.
I'll take a leave. I'm getting late. I'm going somewhere.
No issues, buddy.
Yeah. See you tomorrow.
See you, buddy.
Oh, tomorrow what time?
9:30.
Great. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. It is an altitude. The minimum safe altitude is an altitude which provides 1000 feet of obstacle clearance within 25 nautical mile radius within 25 nautical mile radius from a navigation facility. ठीक है, क्या समझ आया?
वो नैवेड है तो उसके 25 नॉटिकल माइल्स के रेडियस में हर ऑब्जेक्ट से 1000 फीट की सेपरेशन मिलेगी वर्टिकली।
तो अगर मैं बोलूं कि एक वीओआर है, वीओआर के बाजू में एक तो बहुत बड़ा टावर है 600 फीट का, तो आपका एमएसए क्या होगा? चेक चैट क्या करना है? भाई टेस्ट will be given by everyone. Give me a syllabus. I told you 3 topics. Give me 3 topics which are given by everyone. You have given me 5 topics. तो मैं हर्ष का टेस्ट का क्या करूँ? फिर एक बंदे के लिए टेस्ट नहीं करूँ? तो वही बताना, कम टॉपिक पे टेस्ट लूँ? मैं तो सोच रहा हूँ कम टॉपिक पे टेस्ट लूँ, 3 टॉपिक जोड़ देते हैं, 6 हो जाए। अबे तो 3 चैप्टर तो पढ़े, तो उसका तो टेस्ट देगा। आई एम आंसरेबल टू हिज मदर नो। उसकी मम्मी ने बोला उसका आप टेस्ट लो, मेरे को पता वो कर पाएगा नहीं। ऐसे नहीं चलता है, सबके लिए साथ में रहना पड़ेगा। मैं तो पहले ही बोला था। So what I want you to do is, you tell me 3 chapters which everyone has done. 3 chapters which everyone has done. And write it down. Okay? Yeah. हाँ, तो बताओ एमएसए क्या हुआ?
1600।
नहीं, यही तो बात है, जरूरी नहीं है। इट इज नॉट नेसेसरी। जरूरी नहीं है। बहुत लोग बोलते हैं सर इंटरव्यू में जाके व्हाट इज एमएसए? सर एमएसए इज ऑब्स्टिकल, हाईएस्ट ऑब्स्टिकल प्लस 1000 फीट। नहीं भाई, मेरा मन किया मैं 2000 दे दूं, वो भी तो क्लियरेंस दे रहा है ना। मैं 6000 भी दे सकता हूँ, 6000 भी मेरे को क्लियरेंस दे रहा है ना। What if at 26 nautical mile there is a mountain at 6000 feet? Will I still give the MSA as 2000 feet? I will not. It is not necessary. It is, अगर मैं बोलूं 600 पे ऑब्स्टिकल है तो उससे 1000 फीट ऐड करके ही देना जरूरी तो है ना, उसके ऊपर वाला भी तो क्लियर ही करेगा ना। इट इज मिनिमम स्पेसिफाइड ऑल्टीट्यूड जो मेरे को देगा, ठीक है। एंड हमेशा 25 का रेडियस होता है। इट इज ऑलवेज सेंटर्ड अक्रॉस अ नावेड और अ फिक्स। इट कैन ऑल्सो बी अ fix. It can also be a fix. Okay. कोई डाउट है तो बताओ. नहीं है. चलो. Let us do about the plan view. कौन कौन थक गया? मैं थोड़ा थक गया. सैचुरेट हो चुका. Anyone saturated? Even I am saturated. Sriram, you have to prepare for tomorrow's test. We'll call it a day. I'm saturated, bro.